Robbie Burgess from Howard Stein Hudson Associates, who is our traffic consultant, address the board with respect to the questions which were raised about traffic circulation. We did submit a traffic report to the board, and Robbie can speak.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the board for its time. My name is Robbie Burgess, and I am a transportation engineer for the firm Howard Stein Hudson Associates, located in Boston. And we were requested by the proponent to answer some specific questions that were raised at the last hearing in court. We collected some traffic data. We performed a traffic gap study along Harvard Street to determine the number of gaps in traffic to get a better quantitative idea of how this project would operate once open. We also performed some trip generation to try to get an idea of what a medical dental office facility of this size would generate in terms of traffic. And we also took a look at the site distance from both the curb cut on Harvard Street and also from Harvard Court. So to begin with, and I think you all have the memorandum that we made, and I'll just go over some of the points that were generated, and if anyone has any questions after, I'd be happy to continue. The first thing that we looked at was the existing traffic data along Harvard Street, and we collected it for 2 hours during the busiest morning period and 2 hours during the busiest afternoon period, which is standard procedure in traffic engineering. We found that approximately during the AM peak period, peak 1 hour, approximately 609 northbound and 473 southbound vehicles were on Harvard Street for a total of approximately 1,100 vehicles. And then in the PM peak hour, there was slightly more traffic with 619 northbound vehicles and 611 southbound vehicles for a total of 1,330 vehicles. The next thing that we did was simultaneously we performed a gap study, which records the number of acceptable gaps in traffic for vehicles exiting or entering the site. And there is a standard, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, which is the standard for design recommendations in traffic industry. And they require a gap of 7.5 seconds per vehicle exiting from stop position onto a two-lane roadway or onto a roadway. So that's the benchmark that we measure our gaps against, because that's typically the most difficult maneuver. So you have to exit, cross one lane, and then enter into the second lane. If you're a right-hand turning vehicle out of either of the driveway or the site, it's slightly less at 6.5 seconds. So we performed this during both the AM and the PM peak, the busiest periods, and we found that on Harvard Street there were 61 acceptable gaps of 7.5 seconds or greater during the AM peak period, and 35 gaps of 7.5 seconds or more during the PM peak period. So these were essentially the number of opportunities that vehicles would have during that hour to exit the site. Now that's not to say that some of those vehicles may have to wait for a period of 10, 20 seconds, but that gap does come. So it determines that there are opportunities for vehicles to leave the site. And I think that was one of the questions that the board had. I'm not sure if it was a specific question to the board, but it's certainly something that we look at is to try to get an idea of what developments will generate in terms of traffic. And we use the Institute of Transportation Engineers land use code to determine this. And these are developed empirically where data is recorded at actual, in this case, medical dental office sites. So the number of trips is recorded, the size of the development is also recorded, and then statistical regression analysis is performed, and then you can extrapolate this data. Anyway, we used a typical medical dental office and to estimate the number of vehicle trips for a development of this size. And this project, relatively speaking, for medical dental office is a small project, and the daily traffic generation would be approximately 75 vehicles over the period of the day. during the morning peak, it would be approximately 16 vehicles, with 13 entering and 3 exiting. So the number for a medical dental office of this size would be a small number. In the afternoon, it's slightly larger with 8 entering vehicles and 20 exiting vehicles. So in terms of the magnitude of the generation of traffic associated with this project, we feel that it's a minimal amount of traffic during the busiest 1 hour. So during hours beyond, periods beyond that busiest 1 hour, there will still be traffic coming and going to make up that 75 total vehicles, but it's diminishing as you leave the peak periods. The next item that we looked at was sight distance from the driveway. We field measured the intersection sight distance from both Harvard Court and from the parking lot. Now, intersection sight distance is the time for a vehicle operator to make a decision to exit the site and enter the traffic flow without unduly interfering with major road traffic. So it's the time that you need to make a decision, have that gap in traffic, and then be able to pull out and not interfere with other traffic. And we found that we measured 121 feet from Harvard Court in both the right and the left. We measured 117 from the parking lot looking left and 222 looking right. Now, in our memorandum, you'll notice that we indicate that for a vehicle speed of 25 miles an hour, the design guideline indicates that you would like to have 200 and 240 feet for the left and right turn respectively. So clearly we're below this design guideline. Now, and it's important to understand that this is a design guideline, or if you were going to design this driveway, try to achieve a greater sight distance for your vehicles. This existing site, and we're not designing it, we're just reporting what is available. And also, we are in an urban condition where drivers typically accept smaller gaps. So people know, some people pull into the traffic stream, you have to brake hard, or people cut people off. It's different in an urban setting. So, but and also it's important to understand that it's an existing condition. And I'll just quickly read from the design manual on intersection sight distance, and it's quoted as sufficient time for the minor road vehicle to accelerate from a stop and complete a left turn without unduly interfering with major road traffic operations. And I think the key word to understand is interfering. It's not causing an undesirable safety issue, it's interference. So although we are below the design values, we're talking about interference in operations, not safety. So in closing, we feel that, or I feel that this project has got a low vehicle generation characteristic. And I think we have demonstrated that there are adequate gap Harvard Street traffic to accept vehicles entering and exiting the site. And it's also a couple more things to consider, is that this is actually a relocation of this project from a different location in Brookline. So the overall impact to Brookline roadway within the town is nil, because it's not an increase, it's just a movement of those trips to different locations.